Hi, this is Steve Rigolosi, and tonight on Forgotten Mysteries, I have for you Feral by Berton Roueché. You can see it's one of the Harper novels of suspense. This is copyright 1974 by, of course, Harper and Row. The first thing I have to tell you is that reading this book would make many animal lovers run for the hills. The content of this book is quite disturbing, and I'll get into that in a little bit after I give you a little bit of information about Berton Roueché. So I had read one of Roueché's other mysteries, and I thought it was, pretty good. And so when I saw this one for sale, I thought, I'll give it a try. Very slender book. I think it's about 140 pages. And one of the really nice things about the Harper novels of suspense is that the branding of that imprint, by calling these books suspense rather than mystery, I think it gave the editors a lot of leeway to publish books that are fun to read and fast-paced, but don't necessarily involve a mystery or a murder or maybe the typical elements that we would consider part of a mystery, if we see the word mystery on the title. So I really think that this book, it should be classified really as a horror novel. And I'll tell you why, again, after I tell you a little bit about Berton Roueché. So with a name like that, I assumed that he was a Frenchman, but it turns out that he was indeed an American and had a rather successful career. I was glad I looked into this. I knew that he had written nonfiction as well as fiction, and I always admire writers who can do that. Turns out he also wrote for The New Yorker, and he wrote a lot of books about epidemiology and disease and the search for a cure, which I come to find out a lot of his stories and articles form the basis for plots in the TV series House, which is not a show I particularly liked because that doctor just, got on my nerves. But it's sort of interesting to see how things that we all know about, like, the House series, could be inspired by a somewhat forgotten writer, Berton Roueché. So let me tell you about this little book with, the warning that if you are an animal lover, particularly a cat lover, proceed, please, with extreme caution. So I'm just going to give you the plot in a nutshell because there really isn't much to it. So a couple rents a house on Amagansett, Long Island, which is all the way far out, far east on, I believe, the southern shore of Long Island. And they, they love it there so much. When they're there for the summer, they decide to, make it their year-round residence. And as they live there, they come to realize that there is a fairly large population of feral cats. And our lead character is interestingly an editor of sort of scientific journals, and every bit about what he did in his job rang true with me, right? So I could tell he really knew what editorial work was all about. And his wife is not employed, but they get by, and clearly he makes enough money to have a house on Amagansett, Long Island. So once he realizes that these feral cats are becoming a problem, he sends away for some literature and gets a couple of articles talking about the real dangers of cats when they go feral, and how there's often an enormous population of feral cats that you don't see because they're nocturnal. And things start to get, there's this sense of menace, and then really bad things start to happen. Cats start biting people, and people die from these infections. They attack people and kill them, and other really nasty things, to the point where the people of this town are sort of afraid to leave their houses for fear that they're going to be attacked by feral cats. So you see that this is really very much a precursor to Stephen King and his stories, and Cujo about the rabid. I think it's a rabid Saint Bernard. But Berton Roueché did it first. So the question becomes, what is to be done about this feral cat problem? And this is where I warn you to maybe have your finger ready to hit the stop button on this video. They decide, the people of the town, that it's open season on feral cats. And everybody gets a gun and they go out and they start shooting and killing and slaughtering these cats like there's no tomorrow. It is like a cat murder fest. And I just, with modern sensibilities, I just thought, oh my God, people would read this book and just go crazy in a bad way over how these people decide to deal with their feral cat population. But the book, brings up some interesting questions. First of all, it's sort of a man versus nature kind of thing, right? Once these cats have decided that they're in charge and they're going to kill human beings, and bite them and attack them, do people have the right to protect themselves from nature, from animals that have sort of gone wild? And Roueché does bring in a little bit of what I think we would see today if this was happening, of animal lovers and animal rights people saying, no, there's got to be a better way, and the townspeople saying, we're not willing to put up with this anymore. This is the fastest, most likely solution, is to have open hunting on these feral cats. And the book plays out, and you might be able to guess what's coming. On the negative side, I would say that the characters here are really, really cardboard. They don't feel like real people at all. There's the lead couple, and then they have a bunch of friends that they've made, since moving to Long Island or whatever. But nobody is particularly well drawn or has a personality or a character that you would want to talk about or analyze. The people are just there sort of as foils for the cats. But I do think that there are some other things going on here that are worthy of being talked about. Mostly that early in the book, the couple, our protagonists, when they're spending a summer out there at their house, they adopt a cat, Sneakers, who's this really nice, very sweet cat. And when they decide to go back to the city, for, when the summer season is over, they just abandon the cat, thinking, well, it'll fend for itself, or it's so nice, it's so cute, someone is bound to adopt it. And I come to realize that this apparently is really a problem in these resort places, like Nantucket and Amagansett and other places where there's a summer population, that it's not uncommon for people to take in these pets, make the pet part of the family, and then just abandon them. That's a horrible, horrible thing to do. So if you have ever done that, shame on you. It would just so not occur to me, but apparently it happens all the time. And I talked to a friend of mine who vacations quite a bit on Martha's Vineyard and said that that's absolutely a problem there to this day. So it's kind of shocking and it's kind of horrifying. And I sort of wondered if Roueché was making the point that when people behave in this way and are so cruel to animals, that maybe they get what they deserve when the animals go feral and fight back. So that's a sort of an interesting thing to consider. Is there a little bit of a morality tale going on here? There's also a thing that I have to tell you about from my own experience, which is, I consider myself more of a dog person than a cat person, but I do like cats. I've known many cats that I've liked, especially Siamese. But I have to tell you, when I was probably about 8, I was visiting one of my aunts with my parents, and my aunt had a beautiful large cat that looked like Morris. Remember Morris from the cat food commercials? Beautiful cat. His name was Sandy. Sandy did not like people, and Sandy did not like me. But being a little boy, I thought, oh, I can win over Sandy. I can, little by little, I can charm him, and, we can become friends. And my aunt said to me, leave Sandy alone. Don't bother Sandy. Don't touch Sandy. Don't approach Sandy. But did I listen? I did not. And I really thought that I was making progress day by day. Sandy was letting me into his purview. And then it happened. He was lying on his side, and I thought, okay, he's not running away. This is my time to just pet him and cement our new friendship. I tell you, I touched that cat and he attacked me viciously and ferociously. Really tried to rip my face apart. The adults came down flying. It took 3 adults to wrestle Sandy off my face. My face was streaming in blood. And I'm not exaggerating. This all really happened. And that episode, more than 40 years ago now, more than 50 years ago now, has always stayed with me as a cautionary tale of what a cat can do to you if it decides that it wants you dead. And so when I read about these feral cats in the Roueché book, I thought, wow, it's a community of Sandys. And if there's a community of cats with that kind of personality that is willing to gang up with its colleagues to murder people, I could see that it would be a very, very terrifying thing to a community, right? Because I had one experience with Sandy and it sort of scared me for life. So I'm not suggesting that open season on feral cats is a good idea, but we do romanticize animals and nature and pets, especially nowadays. Pets are considered part of the family. My mother has a friend who has a boxer that is a rescue dog that is very, very loyal to her person, but who's really quite dangerous around other people and has kind of really attacked people and hurt them very badly. And this dog is still out there. And, part of me thinks, is that a good thing? What happens if some poor little kid, accidentally finds himself or herself in the yard and this dog decides to go bananas? So there are questions here, right? I'm not saying I have the answers, but I think that this book brings up a lot of questions and it could generate good discussion. It's a really fast read. You don't read it for the characters or the character development. You do read it for the horror, the menace, the creeping terror that is happening. And you close it and you think, okay, thank God that's over, because it was really making me nervous. So the writing is good, serviceable. I wouldn't say that Roueché was a great stylist. It reads like your generic novella, but it's good fodder if you like horror and if you can handle this idea of cats being hunted down by the hundreds and just having their lives snuffed out. So that's what I've got for you tonight. Berton Roueche's Feral. Not the best cover. The cat doesn't look particularly menacing to me. The cat on this cover looks to me rather like a dum-dum. And these cats in this book are not dum-dums. They're quite smart and almost have a kind of a hive mind and a method of attack that makes you think that they're plotting against humanity. So I gave you more details than I usually give about plot for the book. So I hope there haven't really been any spoilers here. If you do read it, I'd be curious to know what you think. Please feel free to leave comments below. And I will be back for you the next time I've got a forgotten mystery by a forgotten writer who nonetheless has had some influence on today's society through his earlier writings and his bases for television plots. Okay, thank you for watching and have a good night.